All right. Happy Sabbath. So good to be back with you all. Going to be delving back into this series. Again, this is a series that's been going on for, been delving into this for over a year now. This is actually part 23 in the series. So since we got time today, I'm going to rehash the first 22 parts. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, guys, you guys captive. You got nowhere else to go. It's a Sabbath day. Sit back, soak in the word. So, how many of you people pretty often read the book of the Song of Solomon or Song of Songs? Show of hands. You read it pretty often, like weekly, daily, once a year. How often do you guys study this book? How many of you guys have preached this book? You know, I look back on the years I've been preaching, and I don't really cite too much. You know what? I cited it talking about seasons, because chapter 2 says, "Lo, the winter is past, the time of the flowers have come." Let's go through the scriptures and looking at time in the scriptures. But this is not a book about timekeeping. This is not a book about. This is a book about love. It's love poetry. You'll see different Bibles and translations. Some will refer to this as the Song of Solomon. Some will call it the Song of Songs. In the Hebrew, it's just straight up the Song of Songs. And this be much like what we saw in the last book, Ecclesiastes, where it began vanity of vanities, or we can read about the Holy of Holies. It's that Hebraism in there. It's a Song of Songs, saying it's like the best of songs. Because it's a song celebrating love, celebrating human sexuality within the confines of a pure and holy and chaste marriage, right? As I've talked about a lot in the past, sin has tainted most everything in this world. It's tainted sexuality. It's tainted marriages. It's tainted people at heart. And so sometimes when people are trying to learn to see correctly and get on biblical worldview, they haven't fully brought into view God's view on these things and what he's saying about these things. And we still have some sense of a dirtiness to sexuality. But that's the tainted version. The scripture can speak about the marriage bed being holy. The Spirit has led Moses to write in the beginning of Genesis that the man and the woman were naked and unashamed. Sin has made things shameful. But God made human sexuality between man and wife as purity, as holiness, for a proper unity. All right. This is one of those books, because it goes into stuff like that, people often don't preach from it. I don't know if because people feel a little too puritanical. It feels weird to talk about such things, I guess, in a church context. Because again, I think it's because they're having this view of some sort of sense of dirtiness to sexuality, but it's between man and wife. There's nothing dirty about it. God has created it for our pleasure, for our unity in the body. So just to make that clear, sex in and of itself is not dirty. It's not sinful. It can be twisted into it, just like all kinds of things can be twisted into it. All right. But this book celebrates that. And we'll see elements in here. Well, this is a book full of metaphors. It's like, looking over at you, man, your teeth are like a flock of sheep. How wondrous. So we're going to read. I got the full text in here from the King James in here. So we'll see some of these things. So there's lots of things. If you were to read these things in a literal sense, this person in here is not so good looking. I've seen some drawings of it. Both the woman who's the Shulamite, because you would take like the literal things. There's some fun. I was going to include it, but I didn't want to get you have the wrong image in your mind. We got to realize that not all things are written in the same straightforward way. This isn't a narrative in that sense. And so again, so let me say that too. We've been doing this 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 foot view coming over the scriptures. So this is a kind of little step out of this, because this isn't really giving us the case, coming the narrative from creation through the fall, through what he's doing with through Noah, and then through Abraham, and then through Isaac and Jacob, and then through Moses. So we're coming into another area here where he's just stepping out, and it's a celebration of love, of unity, of faithfulness, of commitment in marriage. Sexuality, the physical and emotional union of male and female, is here. It's a holy means of celebrating love, of producing children, and experiencing pleasure, protected by the commitment of marriage. All right. So themes throughout here: sexuality, love, commitment, beauty, and even problems in relationship, and how those things are rectified if we stay committed and keep seeking after one another. If there's separation, you'll read about I sought my, these things are out there. You're seeking each other and looking to be committed in these things. Beauty is in here, but also see there's like affirmation. Is these two in their dialogue through this book are speaking life into one another about how beautiful they are. Like, hey, your teeth are like a flock of goats. It's like some good stuff digging in here. So this book is considered one of the pre-exilic writings. Yes. We'll read it. We'll read it into the record. So again, going over in the Hebrew scriptures, you got what's known as the Tanakh, which is an acronym for the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim, the law, the prophets, and the writings. So this is one of the writings. And this is pre-exilic, which means it was written sometime before they were dispersed into Assyria and Babylon. Generally, when we're reading about pre-exilic, it's more dealing with Babylon. So this is before the Southern House got put out. They wrote this. Now, when I started this series, I had mentioned this book, going through book by book, and I said this book is generally attributed to Solomon, but among scholarship, there's question about that. And some of the reason is that, for example, when Solomon is mentioned in this book, he's mentioned in the third person. We have a tendency to not talk that way. I don't say, hey, Brian's giving a sermon right now, and you should listen to what Brian says. It's like, I don't talk about myself in the third person. And we find that example even in scriptural. So it's just a matter of culture, when people are, I did this or I did that type of a deal, or we did. So there's some question about who the author is. Now that should not rock your boat. Whether or not this is written by Solomon really should have no consequence on your belief in the book. Because again, the ultimate author is our Father in heaven, right? So some key verses in here. As a lily among thorns, so is my love among the daughters. So again, so you see this cherishing and this affirmation and this building up in here. I am my beloved, so my beloved is mine. He feeds among the lilies. So here we see a commitment, an acknowledgement that I am yours and you are mine, like we see like in Corinthians. That, Each wife should have their own husband. Each husband has their own wife. Their bodies are not their own. They belong to one another. Here it is. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. And this is said several times throughout this book. But there's a lot of repeat in the book because, again, it's poetic. And there's sometimes I kind of answer and call going back through this. There's different approaches that people deal with this book. They're not totally sure at what point does this change person who's talking. But we'll read through and hit it. Psalm 8:4. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, that you stir not up nor awake love until he please. And that he is not talking about the king. It ain't talking about the beloved. It's talking about love. In the actual Hebrew, it's until she please, because it's referenced back to ahava, which is love. So don't stir up or don't awaken love until it's ready. And this is in here 3 times. And then a couple verses later, 8, verse 6 to 7, set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm, for love is as strong as death. Jealousy is cruel as the grave. The coals thereof are coals of fire, which has a most vehement flame. Many waters cannot quench love, neither can the floods drown it. If a man would give all the substance of his house for love, it would utterly be contempt. All right, so here's some main themes throughout here. Again, this book is exalting love, and exalting a proper love in the sight of God, in a commitment to one another, a cherishing of one another. And I figured I didn't plan this to fall out today. This happens to be the next book in my series of what I've been going through. And it just so happens my niece is getting married tomorrow. So, providence, right? So there's 2 main characters, or 2 main people in here as we're reading through the poem, through different scenes. There's the Shulamite and the beloved, who's also known as the king. So here again is where people get into some issues, with interpretation, trying to understand, is this talking about Solomon? Is it, because, and then they start, well, it can't be about Solomon, because Solomon didn't have this type of commitment. He had 1,000 women. And so, they can't be about Solomon, Well, but why is this woman called the Shulamite? Because that's a feminized version of Shlomo, who was Solomon. So it's almost like saying Mrs. Solomon. And another interesting thing is then she keeps talking about her beloved, which is interesting because that's a form of David. And so fairly early in the church fathers' age, they started to look at this book again because maybe they're a little concerned about sexuality and the cultures are reaching out, and they just wanted to read this totally metaphorically. This is about Christ in the church. He's the David. He's, these various aspects of it. And there was even an aspect of that prior to Christianity within Judaism, where they saw this as a love story between Yehovah, the Lord, and Israel. And then Christianity says, this is between Christ and the church. It could be some aspects of it, but that analogy breaks down in certain parts of this book where it doesn't follow through. It appears to definitely be a love story of a man and a woman. A woman coming into this right away, expressing her love for this man, their courtship, and so on and so forth from there. I looked at several sources, digging in, outside of reading the scriptures themselves, digging in, looking at how the people approach this book, and because I see all kinds of approaches. Like I said, even going back in history, how they approach it. Here is a view. I think I ran across this was gotquestions.org. So in a quick overview, they see chapters 1:1 to 3:5 is the courtship. And then 3:6 to 5:1 is the wedding. And 5:2 to 8:14 is the maturing marriage. Coming through here. Got Questions also said this. So here's their breakdown of this book, which I thought was interesting read. So the song begins before the wedding, as the bride-to-be longs to be with her betrothed, and she looks forward to his intimate caresses. However, she advises letting love develop naturally in its own time. That's the don't awaken love before her time, you know. And again, that's interpreted different ways. Essentially, what it's saying, don't force it. Don't force yourself into, let's say I got a time scale, or I want this person because of this, and you're forcing love, and you say, no, let love work its way. Love will lead if you allow it. Other ways it can also be like, don't arouse love as in sexuality before it's time. Don't get caught up in fornication. Do things to contain yourself until you have your marriage bed. So as the king praises the Shulamite's beauty, overcoming her feelings of insecurity about her appearance, the Shulamite has a dream in which she loses Solomon and searches throughout the city for him. With the help of the city guard, she finds her beloved and clings to him, taken into a safe place. Upon waking, she repeats her injunction not to force love. On their wedding night, the husband praises the beauty of his wife in highly symbolic language. The wife invites her spouse to partake of all that she has to offer. They make love, and God blesses their union. As the marriage matures, the husband and wife go through a difficult time, symbolized in another dream. In the second dream, the Shulamite rebuffs her husband, and he leaves. Overcome with guilt, she searches the city for him, but this time, instead of helping her, the guards beat her, which is symbolic of her pained conscience. Things end happily, though, as the lovers reunite and are reconciled. As the song ends, both the husband and wife are confident and secure in their love. They sing of the lasting nature of true love, and they yearn to be in each other's presence. So this is Got Questions view, and I could see how they're coming to this conclusion in here. It could be a fitting view of it. We're going to look at it through just a little this lens here of overview. So we see here in the first 6 verses, the lovers are presented. We get who these people are, the Shulamite and her beloved. We go into scene 1, which is the lovers together. Then scene 2, hope, invitation, and dream. In chapter 3, we read of Solomon's wealth and extravagance. And we get the third scene, admiration and invitation. The fourth scene, the utter dream and search. Fifth scene, the delights of love. And the conclusion, love is strong as death, which we read about as one of the key verses here. So, lovers presented. The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. So this is saying this is the best songs. Now, if you remember back when we're looking at other writings of Solomon, like the Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, and I quoted out of the Kings how Solomon wrote so many songs, so many Proverbs. So some wonder, is this one of Solomon's songs? Because it can mean, in the Hebrew, it can mean that it's from Solomon, or it can mean it's about Solomon, or it's referencing to something like Solomon. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is better than wine. Because of the savor of your good ointments, your name is an ointment poured forth. Therefore do the virgins love you. Draw me, we will run after you. The king has brought me into his chambers. We will be glad and rejoice in you. We will remember your love more than wine. The upright love thee. I am black but comely, O you daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Look not upon me because I am black, because the sun has looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but my own vineyard have I not kept. Okay. Just an aside here, this is not talk about quote unquote raciality, because the sun doesn't determine what your nationality is. This I am dark is reference to what the sun done to her, not what her parents handed down genetically. That's another lesson for another day. So in here, here begins the chase. Hey, I'm looking for you. Draw me near you. See, so their courtship is here, beginning here. You get the lovers here together. Tell me, oh you whom my soul loves, where you feed, where you mark your flock to rest at noon. For why should I be as one that turns aside by the flocks of your companions? If you know not, O you fairest among women, go your way forth by the footsteps of the flock and feed the kids beside the shepherd's tents. I have compared you, O my love, to a company of horses in the Pharaoh's chariots. Gets your ovation, doesn't it? All right. See what I did there? Your cheeks are comely with rows of jewels, your neck with chains of gold. We will make borders of gold with studs of silver. While the king is sitting at his table, my spikenard sends forth the smell thereof. A bundle of myrrh is my well-beloved unto me. He shall lie all night between my breasts. My beloved is unto me as a cluster of camphire in the vineyards of En-gedi. Behold, you are fair, my love. Behold, you are fair. You have dove's eyes. Behold, you are fair, my beloved. Yea, pleasant. Also, our bed is green. The beams of our house are cedar, and our rafters of fir. Right? So, like I said, this is a book of a lot of symbolism, a lot of metaphor, highly poetic. It's not meant to be read in a literal fashion. So there's a fine example in when we're going into biblical literature and we're trying to read the Bible for all it's worth and understand what it's saying, that we understand the genre in which it's written. So this is not a narrative in that sense. This is a poem. This is even more poetic in that sense, more fabulous in its concepts than things we read about like in the Psalms. The Psalms have things that are not literal, like the hills skip like rams. The hills didn't grow legs and were prancing around like little lambs, but it's talking about the hills quaked at the presence of God or the army of Israel, or, so understanding these things in that sense, what it's talking about. Continues, I am the rose of Sharon, the lily of the valleys. As the lily among thorns, so is my love among the daughters. So again, he's like, look, honey, you're all these thorns out there, you're like a lily. All these other people who would be hurting me, you're the one who brings beauty and comfort to me, to my soul. And so he's given her this affirmation. Hey, you're the one. There's so many thorns out there, but you're the lily in the valley. In the low parts of time, you are a lily in my sight. All right. As an apple tree among the trees of the wood, so is my beloved among the sons. I sat down under his shadow with great delight, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. He brought me unto the banqueting house, and his banner over me was love. Stay me with flagons, comfort me with apples. I am sick of love. His left hand is under my head, his right hand does embrace me. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the roes and by the hinds of the field, that you stir not up nor awaken love till she please. I know it says he, but again, the Hebrew is here. It's reference love. Don't stir up love until it's time. Coming to the second scene with hope, invitation, in one of the dreams talked about. The voice of my beloved, behold, he comes leaping upon the mountains, skipping upon the hills. My beloved is like a roe or a young hart. Behold, he stands behind our wall. He looks forth at the window, showing himself through the lattice. My beloved spake and said unto me, rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. For lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone, the flowers appear on the earth, the time of the singing birds is come, the voice of the turtle, not the turtle, turtles don't talk, the turtle dove, just so you understand the context. The voice of the turtle dove is heard on our land. The fig tree is putting forth her green figs. The vines with the tender grapes give a good smell. Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away, O my dove, that you are in the clefts of the rock, in the secret places of the stairs. Let me see your countenance. Let me hear your voice. For sweet is your voice, and your countenance is comely. Take us the foxes, the little foxes that spoil the vines, for our vines have tender grapes. My beloved is mine, and I am his. He feeds among the lilies until the daybreak, and the shadows flee away. Turn, my beloved, and be like a roe or a young hart upon the mountains of Bethzer. By night on my bed, I sought him whom my soul loves. I sought him, but I found him not. I will rise now and go about the city in the streets, and in the broad ways I will seek him whom my soul loves. I sought him, but I found him not. The watchmen that go about the city found me, to whom I said, did you see whom my soul loves? It was but a little that I passed from them, and I found him whom my soul loves. And I held him and would not let him go until I had brought him into my mother's house, into the chamber that conceived me. I charge you, O you daughters of Jerusalem, by the roes and by the hinds of the fields, that you stir not up, nor awaken love until it's ready. Right. You guys following this story? Make perfect sense to you? Right? So again, like there's a lot of imagery here that I know we still have poems, we still have modern day poets, but it's still quite different from what we're reading here. What was he, in this case, what was she bringing out? Notice this Song of Songs is mainly from the view of the Shulamite. It's mainly her talking about her beloved, and her crying out for her beloved and seeking her beloved and all the things that the beloved does for her. And I don't know if you noticed there, but back in chapter 1, where it talks about the beloved is king. And so there's question, and we see later, I think at verse 7 or 8, where he's described as like a shepherd. And so some of those things, again, made people in the early church refer to it as Christ. Some saw that like a reference to like David and Solomon, because they are kings and shepherds. But again, I'll just approaching this. It's just talking about, in the sense that for every couple, as it were, there's the king and the queen. There's the people who are there bringing together this family before God to have this union, and that for each wife, her husband is king, and for each king, his wife is his queen. So it then segs into a story about wealth and extravagance. Who is this that comes out of the wilderness like pillars of smoke, perfumed with myrrh and frankincense, with all powders of the merchants? Behold his bed, which is Solomon's. 80 valiant men are about it, of the valiant of Israel. They all hold swords, being experts in war. Every man has a sword upon his thigh because of fear in the night. King Solomon made himself a chariot of wood, the wood of Lebanon. He made the pillars thereof of silver, the bottom thereof of gold, and covering it of purple, the midst thereof being paved with love for the daughters of Jerusalem. Go forth, O you daughters of Zion. Behold, King Solomon with the crown wherewith his mother crowned him in the day of his espousals, and in the day of the gladness of his heart. So he's saying, come back and just rejoice in a time like of Solomon, in the day of his wedding. And he's the day of it, the gladness of his heart, his espousals and his things. And we're going to rejoice like that. The pomp of, in the riches of Solomon, in essence. We can have that no matter what our material place is on earth, that we can still rejoice in the blessings of God. Like the blessings poured on Solomon, we can rejoice as husband and wife in whatever blessings, be it material, whatever, that we have the blessings, because whoever finds a wife, whoever obtains a wife has obtained favor of God. Right? That a wife is a blessing unto a husband, and a husband is to be a blessing unto the wife. In the third scene, read of their admiration and invitation. Behold, you are fair, my love. Behold, you are fair. You have dove's eyes within your locks. Your hair is like a flock of goats. Jacob, listen to this stuff. You got to prepare this. All right. That appear from Mount Gilead. Your teeth are like the flock of sheep that are even shorn, which come up from the washing. Every one bears twins. None is barren among them. You have a full mouth of teeth. You're not missing teeth. That's beautiful. Yeah. All right. That's beautiful. Your lips are like the thread of scarlet, and your speech is comely. Your temples are like a piece of pomegranate within your locks. Your neck is like the Tower of David, built for an armory, whereupon there hangs 1,000 bucklers, all shields of mighty men. Your two breasts are like two young roes that are twins, which feed among the lilies. Until the daybreak and the shadows flee away, I will get me to the mountain of myrrh and to the hill of frankincense. You are all fair, my love. There is no spot in you. So again, this verse here is one that early church fathers would grasp upon to say this is talking about Christ in the church, like, because we read about, like in Ephesians, husband loves your wife since here's the great mystery, Christ in the church, and that says that he will wash her with the water or a word and that she will have no wrinkle or spot. And so this verse right here, hey, there's nothing wrong in you, is what Christ does for us. There's no blemish found in us, because outside of our husband from heaven, we are blemished beyond recognition. Right? So he says, let's see here. Come with me from Lebanon, my spouse. With me from Lebanon, look upon the top of Amana, from the top of Shinir, from Hermon, from the lion's dens, from the mountains of the leopards. You have ravished my heart, my sister, my spouse. You have ravished my heart with one of your eyes, with one chain of your neck. How fair is your love, my sister, my spouse. How much better is your love than wine, and the smell of your ointments than all spices. Your lips, oh my spouse, they drop as a honeycomb. Honey and milk are under your tongue, and the smell of your garments is like the smell of Lebanon. A garden enclosed is my sister, my spouse, a spring shut up, a fountain sealed. Your plants are an orchard of pomegranates with pleasant fruits, camphire with spikenard and saffron, calamus and cinnamon, with all the trees of frankincense and myrrh and aloes, with all the chief spices, a fountain of gardens, a well of living waters, streams from Lebanon. Awake, O north wind, and come, you south, blow upon my garden, that the spices thereof may flow out. Let my beloved come to his garden and eat his pleasant fruits. I'm coming to my garden, my sister, my spouse. I've gathered my myrrh with my spice. I've eaten my honeycomb with my honey. I have drunk my wine with my milk. Eat, O friends, drink, yea, drink abundantly, O beloved. And again, so much in here speaking in this love and desire and view of one another is in, you're like a garden, and all these things referencing back to the garden. I've seen several interpreters going back to this. This is reflecting back, in a sense, back to Genesis 1 and 2, where man was made naked and unashamed with his wife, and they were there in their garden, and this celebration of that purity in a time prior to the fall. In the fourth scene, get another dream in the search. I sleep, but my heart wakes. It's the voice of my beloved that knocks, saying, open to me, my sister, my love. See this, I sleep and my heart wakes. That's what they're interpreting as saying, I'm sleeping, but here's what my mind's at. I'm dreaming this. I'm dreaming this thing. Is the voice of my beloved that knocks, saying, open to me, my sister, my love, my dove, my undefiled. For my head is filled with dew, and my locks with the drops of the night. I have put off my coat. How shall I put it on? I have washed my feet. How shall I defile them? My beloved put in his hand by the hole of the door, and my bowels were moved for him. I rose up to open to my beloved, and my hands dropped with myrrh, and my fingers with sweet-smelling myrrh upon the handles of the lock. I opened to my beloved, but my beloved had withdrawn himself, and he was gone. My soul failed when he spoke. I sought, but I could not find him. I called him, but he gave me no answer. The watchmen that went about the city found me, and they smote me. They wounded me. The keepers of the walls took away my veil from me. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, if you find my beloved, that you tell him that I am sick of love. What is your beloved more than another beloved? Oh, you fairest among women. What is your beloved more than another beloved? Oh, that you dost so charge us. My beloved is white and ruddy, the chiefest among 10,000. His head is as the most fine gold. His locks are bushy and black as the raven. His eyes are the eyes of doves by the rivers of waters, washed with milk and fitly set. His cheeks are as a bed of spices, his sweet flowers. His lips like lilies, dropping sweet-smelling myrrh. His hands are as gold rings set with the beryl. His belly is as the bright ivory overlaid with sapphires. His legs are as pillars of marble, set upon sockets of fine gold. His countenance is as Lebanon, excellent as the cedars. His mouth is most sweet, yea, he is altogether lovely. This is my beloved, and this is my friend, O daughters of Jerusalem. Where is my beloved gone, O you that fairest among women? Where is your beloved turned aside, that we may seek him with you? My beloved is gone, down into his garden, to the beds of spices, to feed in the gardens, to gather lilies. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine, and he feeds among the lilies. So this is reference, as we saw in that slide of overview from Got Questions, that here she's having this dream, and she sees her man's gone. She's going to try to find him, and then as they understand, these people of the towns, is her conscience pinging her for where she was in her fight with her husband. And so now she's off seeking him, and still the great thing in here, the sense of commitment throughout here. Even at this point, I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. It's an important part in any marriage to keep that in mind. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. We have totally lost sense of commitment in this day and age. Everything is treated like a paper plate. It's temporary till I find some other thing to satisfy. But as you learn in the book of Ecclesiastes, there is no satisfaction outside of love. There's so many things that can glitter and shine and catch our eye, and like, oh yeah, that's better than this. That's better than this. Oh, that grass is greener. Yeah. But there's no satiation. There is no satisfaction that can be found. There is no such thing as truly fulfilling your lust, because lust is never fulfilled. It's like a devouring fire. A fire never says, sorry, I'm full, no more wood. I'm done. So is the lust of the human heart. Because once again, it goes back to the hole in our heart is not sex-shaped. It's not money-shaped. It's not friendship-shaped. It's not power and posterity and fame. It's God-shaped. And until we recognize that's what we're missing in this life, we are not going to find satiation. We're not going to find you complete me. All right? I agree, Ev. Fifth scene, the delights of love. You are beautiful, O my love, as Tirzah, comely as Jerusalem, terrible as an army with banners. Turn away your eyes from me, for they have overcome me. Your hair is as a flock of goats that appeared from Gilead. Your teeth are as a flock of sheep which go up from the washing, whereof everyone bears twins, and there is not one barren amongst them. Right? As a piece of pomegranate are your temples within your locks. There are 80 queens and 80 concubines, and virgins without number. My dove, my undefiled is but one. She is the only one of her mother. She is the choice one of her that bare her. The daughters saw her and blessed her, yea, the queens and the concubines, and they praised her. Who is she that is looking forth as the morning, as fair as the moon, as clear as the sun, terrible as an army with banners? I went into the garden of nuts to see the fruit of the valley, and to see whether the vine flourished and the pomegranates budded. Or ever I was aware, my soul made me like the chariots of Aminadab. Return, return, O Shulamites. Return, return, that we may look upon you. What will you What will you see in the Shulamite? As it were, the company of two armies. How beautiful are your feet with shoes, O prince's daughter. The joints of your thighs are like jewels, the work of the hand of a cunning workman. Your navel is like a round goblet, which wants not the liquor. Your belly is like a heap of wheat, set about with lilies. The two breasts are like two young roes that are twins. Your neck is as a tower of ivory. Your eyes like the fish pools in Heshbon, by the gate of Bat Rabim. Your nose is as the tower of Lebanon, which looks towards Damascus. I don't know if people would find that like positive these days. You're saying I got a big nose? Your nose like the tower of Lebanon, which looks towards Damascus. Your head upon you is like Carmel. The hair of your head is like purple. Remember, purple was an expensive dye. It was a rich opulence. So he's saying your hair is beautiful. The king is held in the galleries. How fair and how pleasant are you, O love, for delights. Your stature is like to a palm tree, and your breast to clusters of grapes. I said, I will go up to the palm tree. I will take hold of the boughs thereof. Now also your breasts will be clusters of the vine, and the smell of your nose like apples, and the roof of your mouth like the best wine for my beloved that goes down sweetly, causing the lips of those that are asleep to speak. I am my beloved, and his desire is towards me. Come, my beloved, let us go forth into the field. Let us lodge in the villages. Let us get up early to the vineyards. Let us see if the vine flourish, whether this tender grape appears, and the pomegranates bud forth. There I will give you my loves. The mandrakes give a smell, and at our gates are all manner of pleasant fruits, new and old, which I have laid up for you, O my beloved. Oh, that you were as my brother, that sucked at the breast of my mother. When I should find thee without, I would kiss you. Yea, should not be despised. I would lead you and bring you into my mother's house, and who would instruct me? I would cause you to drink of the spiced wine of the juice of the pomegranate, and his left hand should be under my head, and his right hand should embrace me. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, that you stir not up, nor awake my love until it's time. The book concludes in the last half here of chapter 8 with love is strong as death. Who is this that comes up from the wilderness, leaning upon her beloved? I raised you up under the apple tree. There your mother brought you forth. There she brought you forth that bare you. Set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm. For love is as strong as death. Jealousy is cruel as the grave. The coals thereof are coals of fire, which has a most vehement flame. Many waters cannot quench love, neither can the floods drown. If a man would give all the substance of his house for love, it would utterly be contemned. We have a little sister, and she has no breast. What shall we do for our sister in the day when she shall be spoken for? She shall be a wall. We will build upon her the palace of silver. And if she be a door, we will enclose her with the boards of cedar. I am a wall, and my breast like towers. Then was I in his eyes as one that found favor. Solomon had a vineyard at Baal-Hamon. He let out the vineyard unto keepers. Every one for the fruit thereof was to bring 1,000 pieces of silver. My vineyard, which is mine, is before me. You, O Solomon, must have 1,000, and those that keep the fruit thereof 200. You that dwell in the gardens, the companions hearken to your voice. Cause me to hear it. Make haste, my beloved. Be you like unto a roe or a young hart upon the mountains of spices. Be like a roe or a young hart. Make haste to your beloved. Right? Cherish the companionship that God has offered you too as you're starting on this journey. Celebrate what God has made for you was made for all couples who are one in him, in Christ, in marriage. He has given us this precious gift of unity and beyond the physicality. The physicality helps unify the spirituality and the connection and the emotion. It's there. I mean, even at a scientific level, they know what happens with brain chemicals, with sexual union, how it cements people to one another, to have a sense of, I am my beloved's and my beloved is mine. So that is the wrap up of the Song of Songs. As I said, it doesn't, it's kind of a little side jaunt from this journey we've been going on through these other 22 parts of this series thus far, but it does bring us back to the beginning. Here's what he wants. Here's his intention from the beginning, that man is not alone, that he has a companion, and that she's a suitable help to him, and that they cherish one another, that they have that sense of commitment, even when things seem to go wrong, even when there's some miscommunication or some harsh feelings, that they still go and seek one another. And we see that examples in other things. We're eventually going to get to the book of Hosea, which is a great picture of God still seeking after his whoring wife. When he told Hosea, you take a whorish woman, the wife, and he took Gomer, he said, because he was supposed to represent God, and God still sought after. There's going to be times, our marriage vows, our traditional marriage vows includes for better, for worse. And we got to recognize in those times of worse that we're still our beloveds, and our beloved is ours, and that we seek one another in all these things. That's it for today. Really brief, I know, different, but God bless.